This story is about the moment love doesn't end in an argument, but in a sentence said calmly over dinner. About how some people don't leave in anger, they leave with a plan. And how discovering the truth hurts less than realizing you were never meant to follow them where they were going. Don't panic, but I think I'm done being your wife. That's what she said, mid-bite, mid-silence, on a Tuesday, over cold pesto pasta and a bottle of wine I didn't even want to open. No eye contact, no warning, just those 12 words. I remember the way her fork clinked against the plate, like punctuation, like a gavel. I looked up, thinking she was quoting something. A podcast, maybe. One of those self-help YouTube coaches she listens to at night while pretending to sleep beside me. But she wasn't quoting anything. She meant it. I laughed. I honestly thought she was kidding. I said, "Wait, what?" and gave a half chuckle, like we were in a really weird improv skit. She didn't even flinch. "I'm serious," she said, finally meeting my eyes. "I want to start living for me, not for us, and definitely not for you." And just like that, I knew this wasn't a fight. It wasn't a phase. It was an exit announcement. I stared at the steam rising from my plate. It smelled like lemon zest and betrayal. I should have seen it coming, but I was too comfortable. A week earlier, I'd found a single sandal under the couch, one of hers. It had a scuffed heel and a sticky note jammed inside it that said, "Breathe louder. Exist less." I thought it was a joke, maybe from her quirky friend Janine, or some weird journaling exercise. Now I wonder if it was meant for me. That same week, she'd started putting my laundry into a separate hamper. Told me it was for efficiency. Said, "You sweat differently than I do." I should have seen the red flags. But I was too busy playing the good husband, fixing the garbage disposal, and pretending not to hear her sigh when I walked into a room. So I said what I never thought I'd say. I put my fork down, too. I said, "You want to live for yourself? Fine, but not in my house and not on my dime." It came out colder than I meant it, but it felt like the only thing I had left to control. She nodded, like she expected that answer, like she'd rehearsed it in her head 1,000 times. Then she stood up, walked upstairs, and didn't come back down. Not for dinner, not that night, not even the next morning. Next time in part 2. The suitcase I didn't notice was missing. She left behind a single earring, a withered plant, and a locked drawer I never noticed until the day after she vanished. What was inside? That's where things stopped making sense. The next morning, the house felt different. Still. Too still. I woke up with that fake calm you get right before your stomach remembers what happened the night before. I walked downstairs, half hoping she'd be in the kitchen like nothing happened, sipping tea, scrolling her phone, maybe offering one of those empty good mornings that never really meant anything. She wasn't. And neither was her favorite suitcase. It hit me when I walked past the hallway closet. The door was slightly ajar. I don't even know why I looked, but the moment I did, I knew. The big burgundy Samsonite, the one with the cracked handle from our Arizona trip, gone. Her running shoes, too. And weirdly, the blue mug with the chip on the rim that she always claimed was perfectly imperfect. That was the first moment I realized this wasn't a tantrum. It was an exit strategy. One I hadn't been invited to participate in. I stood in front of that open closet for way too long, trying to calculate how long she'd been planning this. How many days had she been quietly editing me out of her life? While I was buying groceries and unclogging the shower drain, she was, what? Packing an escape bag behind my back? What kind of person leaves and takes their favorite mug? That's when I noticed something even more bizarre. Her keys were still hanging by the door. Her keys. Why would she leave her house keys if she just needed space? Why surrender access unless you didn't plan to return? I felt sick. I checked my phone. No texts, no missed calls. Nothing. Just a weather alert and a 15% off coupon from the same hardware store, where I bought the doorbell camera. I suddenly regretted never installing. I opened the laptop and checked our shared Google Drive. I don't know why. Maybe I thought she'd left me a digital letter or a hint or some explanation that would make the absurdity of it all make sense. What I found instead was a folder I'd never seen before. It was titled in lowercase, "Begin Again." Inside were PDFs. Articles like How to Reclaim Your Autonomy After Emotional Burnout, Digital Detox for Toxic Dependency, Signs You're Not Living Your Truth. There was even a spreadsheet, color-coded, tracking daily emotions over the past 6 months. Notes like heavy but determined, dull ache behind the eyes, no longer reacting to his voice. I sat there staring at the screen while my toast burned in the kitchen. I wanted to be angry, I really did. But mostly I felt obsolete, like a coffee table that no longer matches the new decor. Something she kept around until it clashed too hard with who she wanted to be. And yet, something still didn't add up. If this was just a clean break, no cheating, no fight, no scandal, why did it feel so curated, controlled, like I was walking through an emotional crime scene staged to look like self-care? I opened our bank app. I don't know why, I guess I was spiraling. But what I found there sent a chill straight through me. She'd withdrawn $9,000 over the past 5 weeks. Always in cash, always in rounded numbers, always from branches 2 towns over. I never noticed, because she knew I wouldn't look. She knew I trusted her. That was the part that hurt the most. What kind of person calmly dismantles a marriage like it's a Pinterest project? Apparently, the kind who takes a chipped mug but leaves her wedding ring in the fruit bowl. And yes, I found it. Sitting right on top of a bruised peach, next to a receipt I wasn't supposed to see. The receipt was from a cafe called Juneberry in Flint. Never heard of it. I checked the date, 2 days before the pasta dinner. Time, 11:47 a.m., midday, midweek. While I was at work thinking she was at the dentist, she paid in cash. 2 lattes, a croissant, and something called a residency inquiry. $40. The line item stuck out. Residency inquiry? What kind of cafe charges for that? I Googled the place. It wasn't a regular cafe. It was a boutique, creative residency campus in a woodsy town about 90 miles away. Apparently for people who want to disconnect and rediscover their voice. Their voice? I sat there rereading that phrase like it was an insult. She was planning to disappear somewhere that offers morning yoga and silent dinner rituals. While I was at home refilling the Brita and folding the duvet she said was too heavy for her aura. I called the place, said I was her brother, asked if Lena had applied. The woman on the phone hesitated, then said, "I believe she's already been accepted. She arrives next week." My wife wasn't just leaving me. She was relocating to a mindfulness resort, without telling me, without even asking for a divorce. Just vanishing with style. I almost didn't see them at first. At the very bottom of one of the PDFs in her "do" Beats folder, a personal document titled Emergence Plan V3. There were faint numbers in gray, smaller than the rest of the text. GPS coordinates. I copied them into Google Maps without thinking. My hand was still shaking from the call to the residency center, and I half expected the map to drop a pin somewhere obvious, like the yoga commune. But it didn't. It pointed to an old roadside motel off Highway 6, way out past the city, a place called Elder Pines Motor Inn. The kind of place where all the photos are grainy, and reviews mentioned strong smells and questionable linens. Definitely not the wellness retreat vibe she was selling with her Pinterest boards. I should have stopped there. Should have taken it as a sign that I was spiraling into territory meant to stay dark. But something told me this wasn't about healing. Not anymore. So I drove. The whole way my thoughts were fighting over themselves. Was she meeting someone? Was this some halfway stop before her big enlightenment escape? Why leave keys, her ring, her favorite books, then hide a location like this? The drive took just under 2 hours. By the time I got there, it was early evening, the kind of hour when everything looks either golden or haunted. The parking lot had 3 cars. One of them looked familiar. Not because it was Lena's, it wasn't, but because I'd seen it once in a photo she showed me from her office Christmas party last year. A colleague, not someone I knew well. His name started with a D. Derek? Darren? I didn't even let myself think it. I walked into the front office. The guy at the desk looked up from a styrofoam container of chili and said, "Checking in?" "No," I said. "My wife was here a few days ago. I think she may have left something." He squinted at me like I was lying, or maybe just too honest. "Room number?" I didn't know, so I guessed. 12? I said, my voice too high to be confident. He nodded slowly, like I'd passed some weird loyalty test, then handed me a key card from behind the counter. Checkout was yesterday. I didn't ask why he was giving it to me. I didn't care. Room 12 was at the back. The curtains were shut, but the air smelled like old perfume and vanilla candles when I opened the door. Inside, the bed was made, but only half-heartedly. 1 pillow on the floor, empty plastic water bottles, a wrinkled receipt from a gas station tucked between the sheets, no clothes, no note. But the real clue was on the nightstand. A notebook, leather-bound, hers. I opened it expecting journal entries or affirmations or poems about quote 1, but page after page was filled with lists, names, checkboxes, flight prices. One heading read, "If he finds out." And under it, scribbled hard into the paper, Plan B, Mexico, late November, separate bank account. That's when I finally sat down, because my legs weren't working anymore. She didn't just leave me. She built a whole system to erase me, and I had no idea how far she'd gone, or how much further she was planning to go. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my car across the street from the Elder Pines Motor Inn, flipping through Lena's notebook in silence, while the motel's porch lights flickered like bad omens. I kept going back to that one line. If he finds out. Who was he supposed to be? Me. And then, stupidly, impulsively, I searched through my phone for the company holiday photo, the one she forced me to like on Instagram, even though I wasn't in it. Her whole office had posed in front of a fake fireplace in December sweaters, mugs of cocoa in hand. I zoomed in. 3rd row, left corner. There he was. Derek. No, Deacon. That was his name. I remembered now because she once told me. He used to be in a punk band and dresses like a thrift store that got hit by a hurricane. I laughed at the time. Now I just felt cold. He was the only one in that picture not looking at the camera. He was looking at her. The car in the parking lot matched his. The dent in the fender. The faded bumper sticker that said, "Don't tell me how to feel." I wasn't ready to confront him. Not yet. I still didn't know what I'd even say. But I needed to know how deep it went. So I did something I didn't think I had the nerve to do. I drove back home, got onto Lena's desktop, and reset the password on her old email account. The one she hadn't used since before we were married. She always used the same recovery question. Favorite childhood movie? The Iron Giant. She cried every time. It worked. The inbox wasn't full. It was clean. Too clean. But the sent folder told a different story. There were messages going back months, flights booked under different names, Dropbox links, and one video file she must have forgotten to delete. It had no title, just a timestamp. I clicked play, and for the first time in my life, I understood what heartbreak physically feels like. It started mid-sentence. No intro, no explanation. Just her voice, muffled, but unmistakably hers. The camera was facing downward at first, angled clumsily toward a table with a half-eaten sandwich and a notebook open to a to-do list titled Disentangle Without War. The image wobbled, then suddenly lifted, and there she was, Lena, seated on a blanket under some kind of wooden canopy. Wind in her hair, sunlight on her shoulders. She looked peaceful, unnaturally peaceful. Across from her sat Deacon. He was barefoot, wearing one of those woven hoodies that look like something you buy during a gap year abroad. They were laughing about something I couldn't hear. Then she leaned in and said, clearly, quietly, directly into the mic, "He still doesn't suspect a thing. He thinks I'm spiraling because of burnout. Poor Curtis. He's so sweet, so asleep." I froze. She said it so casually, like she was describing a pet, not a person, not her husband. Then Deacon chimed in, "You sure he won't check the joint accounts?" And she said, "He won't. He doesn't want to see anything that'll hurt. That's the beauty of it." She laughed again. The kind of laugh I hadn't heard in months. Joyful. Free. Not mine. The video cut off at 47 seconds. Just ended, mid-breath. I must have replayed it 6 times, thinking maybe I'd misheard. Maybe I misunderstood the context. Maybe it was a skit, some weird therapy exercise. But every time it was the same. Her voice, her smile, her words, clearer than any truth I'd ever heard. I didn't cry, not right away. I just sat there, staring at the monitor, my reflection warped in the black screen once the video stopped. I didn't see a man. I saw a ghost wearing my clothes. This wasn't just cheating. This was strategic cruelty. A slow fade designed to look like growth. A disappearance rehearsed like performance art. And for the first time, I realized Lena hadn't been unsure about leaving me. She'd been excited about it. She had built a new identity without me, crafted a narrative where I was the weight she had to cut off to fly. But she made one mistake. She left the knife where I could see it. I didn't plan to knock. For 2 days, I watched Deacon's apartment from across the street, from the cracked leather seat of my car, drinking gas station coffee and telling myself I'd never actually get out. But on the 3rd morning, I saw him. He came out with a duffel bag and a paper bag full of takeout, whistling, sunglasses on, hair messy, the posture of a man who slept well and didn't care who knew it. That was the last straw. I didn't confront him right then. I waited until nightfall, when the building was quiet and I knew he'd be alone. I walked up to the 2nd floor, past the dying ficus outside 2C, and knocked 3 times like I'd rehearsed it. He opened the door wearing a towel. At first, there was that split second where he didn't recognize me. Then I saw it. The flicker. That moment when his brain caught up and calculated that I wasn't someone dropping off Uber Eats. He didn't say anything. Just stared. I said, "We need to talk. Now." He stepped aside. No fight. No sarcasm. Maybe he thought I was going to swing on him, but I didn't. I just walked in, heart in my throat, because now that I was inside, I realized I had no idea what I wanted from him. His apartment was small, humid, smelled like incense, and something burned. Paintings leaned against the wall, unfinished, chaotic ones. One of them looked like Lena. I didn't ask. He sat down on a bar stool and finally spoke. "I figured you'd show up eventually." "I saw the video," I said. "I read the emails. I've seen everything." He nodded like it was a business transaction. "I didn't want to hurt you. Then why did you? I snapped. And that's when he did something I didn't expect. He apologized. I mean, really apologized. No excuses, no soft language. He said Lena was intoxicating, but also terrifying. That she had this ability to make people feel like they were part of something bigger, until they weren't. She made him feel special, like she chose him from some cosmic lineup of better men. But then he said something that shook me more than the video did. She told me you knew, that you didn't care, that you were too checked out to notice, that you hadn't touched her in months and you'd be relieved to be free. I stood there, frozen, mouth open. It felt like someone had just stapled that sentence directly to my chest. Because part of it, just a part, wasn't entirely false. I had been distant for a while, quiet, tired. But it wasn't from disinterest. It was from always trying to guess what version of her I was coming home to. I had walked on eggshells for so long, I forgot what solid ground felt like, and she weaponized that. She turned my hesitation into consent, my exhaustion into permission. I left his place without yelling, without hitting him, without flipping the table like I imagined 100 times. Because in that moment, I finally understood something that made my stomach turn. This was never about him. He was just the tool. She was holding the handle the whole time. I found the letter by accident. It was in a manila envelope tucked behind a stack of old tax forms in our shared file cabinet. The one I almost didn't open, because I was so sure nothing good ever came out of a drawer labeled Finances. The envelope had no name on it. Just one word written in lowercase with a black marker. If. I sat down on the floor, legs crossed, and opened it with the kind of dread you reserve for hospital results or final notices. The paper inside was folded 3 times, and the handwriting was hers. Rushed but careful, like it had been written in one sitting, with emotion she was trying hard to contain. The letter was addressed to me. Curtis, if you're reading this, it means I never had the courage to explain things properly. Maybe you found the videos, maybe the emails. Maybe I broke your heart, and maybe I made you think none of it was real. But it was. You were never the problem. I was. I didn't know how to be still. I thought movement meant growth. I confused distance with freedom. You gave me safety, and I mistook it for confinement. You gave me stability, and I blamed you for my restlessness. I convinced myself that disappearing was noble, that walking away was some kind of spiritual awakening, but it was just running. I hope someday you'll understand that you didn't fail. I did. I failed to love what didn't need fixing. If you hate me, I understand. But if you can find something good on the other side of this, I hope you do. You deserve peace. Lena, I read it twice, then a third time. And when I folded it back up, something shifted inside me. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a thread of clarity that I hadn't felt since the moment she said she wanted to live for herself. She was broken in ways I couldn't fix. And maybe I was too. But we weren't each other's enemies. We were just 2 people who outgrew the story we thought we were writing. That night, I packed a bag. Not out of grief, out of purpose. I booked a cabin 2 hours north. No Wi-Fi, no distractions, just space. I brought a few books, a notebook, and the dog. Yes, somehow, the dog ended up with me. She left him behind. Said he'd always liked me more anyway. I watched the sunrise the next morning for the first time in years without checking my phone. I made my own coffee. I listened to birds instead of podcasts. I started breathing again. Not the forced kind, but the kind that doesn't need to be remembered. And I realized something. Losing her didn't destroy me. It revealed me. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't reacting to someone else's storm. I was standing in my own calm,